every now and then, like so many writers, unfortunately, I've had to take on 9 to 5 jobs to support the writing. The older I've got, the more difficult this has been. I've found myself, writing 6, 7 in the morning, doing a couple of hours before going into a 9 to 5 role, and then trying to find the energy to write once the 9 to 5 day is over. Writing through lunch breaks. The older I've got, the harder it's got. Though it's been easier to focus on the writing. To find that energy does get harder. Thankfully, it's not something I've had to do all the time, but every now and then I've had to do it. The discipline is something that came to me relatively late, not something I had in my 20s, when I would just walk out of jobs, go home, give my mum a call at work just so she wouldn't be shocked to find me back in the family bedsit. But I've always had a problem being somewhere I don't want to be. That was a problem for me at school. As I remember being 8 years old, obviously wanting to be a priest, I would pray every day. I still pray every day, but I would pray to God in the mornings to make this day at school go as quickly as 2 minutes. Very specific. I thought 1 minute's going to be asking too much, but if I ask God to make this day pass as quickly as 2 minutes, I think that's reasonable. Went to secondary school. The school was closing down. It was getting smaller every year. We were the penultimate intake. And the last couple of years, it was just so easy to bunk lessons. And, that's what I did. I just did not have the discipline, the inclination to be somewhere, to be sat somewhere for a set amount of hours doing something I didn't want to do. I'd known that I wanted to be a writer ever since I was a kid. I had assumed it would bring me glories and riches beyond my wildest dreams. And there have been some notable successes, but sustaining that success in the real world has been the difficulty. Suppose if 30 years ago I'd made the effort to look into how writers I liked were doing, how easy or difficult it might have been for them. If I'd been reading books like George Gissin's New Grub Street, arguably I think the best book ever read on the difficulties of being a professional writer, how it affects your life, never mind your career, I might have chosen to take a different career path because it's impacted on everything. It's impacted immensely on my life. It's impacted on the choices I made as a much younger man. I can trace it all to where I am now. It's 9 to 5 for me has almost been like being in the closet. Going into an office, feeling like an imposter, trying to pretend I'm interested in what I'm doing, trying to find that motivation, trying to gel with colleagues has always been difficult. I've met some brilliant people over the last 20 years in some of these roles, and people that in some cases people I can call my friends, but more often than not, particularly in the public sector, I've come out rather of one particular department, gone in years later into another department when the writing's been quiet, and encountered the same people just moving around. And for me, it's just okay. Some people, that's enough for them. Some people, that's all they want from life. And to be able to pay their mortgage and to be able to go out at the weekend, that was never enough for me. I just wanted more. I wanted the freedom to be able to do what I wanted, which was to be creative, to write things, to make things. Being a very quiet character also made going into 9 to 5 very difficult to be around people. It made it very difficult for me. It would take me on average 2 to 3 months to feel like I'd made progress with colleagues, to feel comfortable with them. And often I'd be sat as the new guy because I've been so used to being the new guy. I'd be sat, with my back to everyone, or I'd be sat in a corner, and then I'd be hauled in by a boss who would tell me that I wasn't mixing with people, that I wasn't really good for the team. And I'm thinking, you've sat me with my back to everyone. I would be very suspicious of someone, a new person coming in and feeling at the end of their first day that I knew everything about them. I've never liked those kind of people. So I'm a quiet guy, reserved guy, but I know that eventually I'll be able to interact with those colleagues properly, and I suppose that confidence came from being the new guy, a couple of hundred times really, because that's as a contractor. I've probably worked in over a couple of hundred places, so it's something that I'm used to. It's something that I'm comfortable with that level of discomfort. And in some instances, as I say, I've made some, people that I've come to regard as friends. Encountered a few extroverts along the way. They're the people. When you're a quiet character and by the end of the first or second day, there's always the extrovert around. I remember a job in the early noughties, and I was kind of going about my business quietly, and then at the end of the first week there, this girl who'd been away, apparently she'd injured herself. She came in on crutches, and within a couple of minutes I knew that that was the hitherto missing office extrovert, and I heard her loudly asking who I was. "Who's that guy?" she said in a Welsh accent, and I thought, oh, God. But this is the thing. The extroverts always gravitate towards me. I think they get something out of me that they don't get maybe from other people. They know I'm not going to outshine them. And I suppose the reverse works as well. Some of the people that I've got on with best have turned out to be the extroverts. Here we are, South London. There's the police siren. Impossible to film or record anything without hearing a police siren if you're in South London. So it's become easier over the years to just mentally block everything out when I'm, in an office, but still feeling like an imposter. There have been times where, I've just very quickly got on with people, and there was one particular role back in the noughties, the mid noughties. I was working two different shifts. My shift was afternoon, evening shift. I'd started off on the evening shift, and I got on great with those guys. I still do. I still see them. I still chat to them. I consider them friends. But as long as I didn't do 9 to 5, I was fine with working 8 hours a day, and I'd managed to bag myself this cushy afternoon evening slot. The two shifts didn't necessarily get on that well, so I was in a bit of an awkward spot, but my loyalty was definitely to the evening shift guys. There was an autistic woman working on the afternoon shift. She was pushing 60. Very funny woman. Used to dress very strange outfits, kind of like something out of the dresses in Little House on the Prairie. They'd just be like long dresses from the 70s. She was very, very funny, very smutty. Would call me Mr. Spanish. I'd often sit with her on the afternoon shift, which she was a part of. She would be very crude, very explicit. She'd ask guys how, big they're. You get the gist of what I'm saying. She was very funny though, and I think if you're like me and you don't particularly want to be in that kind of environment, it's great to watch the clock just whiz by because there are some interesting people there. But I began to suspect that she maybe felt a bit more affection for me than I was comfortable with. She had a habit of kissing guys in the office. It became something of a running joke, but I had noticed, being the kind of guy that I am, that she suffered from cold sore outbreaks. And I'd noticed that 2 or 3 guys from that afternoon shift every now and then had cold sores, and I kind of wondered if there was a connection there. And there was a particular week, by then I'd known her for about a year, where she just attempted, much to the amusement of the rest of the team, to plant a kiss on my lips. And I thought, I'm reasonably popular here. I could make myself more popular and endear myself to these colleagues by allowing this to happen. But I don't want a cold sore. I don't want to be explaining to any future girlfriends how I might have got this cold sore, because it's going to be a barely believable story. And I know I'm just passing through this place. What am I going to do? Am I going to get in contact with old colleagues to say, look, I've met someone. They're a bit concerned about how I might have got the cold sore. Could you please explain to them what happened? You know, with this old autistic colleague, this very funny woman. Plus the woman in question, you know, she was going to be retiring soon. I wouldn't have been able to get, you know, in touch with her. People may not have known how to get hold of her. I wasn't going to be able to verify the story. So basically, the second attempt she made to plant her lips on mine, I blocked her off. Things were never the same again. There was a hush in the office. My popularity began to slip. I think people made the easy assumption that it was her disability that had put me off. It wasn't. You know, I've got a sense of humour. You know, I could have seen the funny side of it, but you know, I don't do well with things like cold sores. You know, I've got enough problems in my life. I don't want to be living out the final 30, 40 years of my life, you know, with regular outbreaks of cold sores. And if I had the chance to, you know, do this again, you know, if I had the chance to maybe come to a different decision as this woman came towards me, advanced towards me with her lips puckered up, I think I would have made the same decision. You know, I'm comfortable with the decision. No cold sores, cold sore free. It was the right decision. Subscribe. Enjoy your evening. Hope it's been a good day for you. I'll be back tomorrow.